Are you a small business and you're struggling to figure out how to keep bookkeeping and also who's going to do your taxes? Well, today I have Joy, who's been in the industry for over 20 years, and she has such a wide range of experience. And so today I'm going to be talking to her and asking all of those questions that you probably have as a small business owner. Let's dive in. All right, so tell us a little bit about how you got started doing bookkeeping and like maybe even as to why you do it.
Well, I've started bookkeeping straight out of school. This has pretty much been all I've ever done because I've either been an office administrator, an office manager, or an accountant in a mid-sized firm. So I've worked with numbers pretty much my whole life. And then about 10 years ago, I became employed in a tax office from a lady who also did bookkeeping service as well as taxes. And I found that personal relationship and that small one-on-one touch. I really enjoyed the bookkeeping aspect as an external bookkeeper. I found that very rewarding. So then when my husband and I returned to Florida, that was up in Pennsylvania. When my husband and I returned to Florida, COVID happened, the whole world went remote, and I helped not one, but two online startup bookkeeping businesses get together, get going. They were completely clueless. And my husband looked at me and said, "Babe, if you're putting these businesses together and helping them get organized, why are you not doing this for yourself?" And the light bulb lit up above my head, and I decided it was time for me to open my own business.
I find that interviewing people, I've noticed that a lot of times many tend to start during COVID, which I thought is interesting. But that's just kind of seems to be the thing. A lot of people got started doing their own thing during COVID because things were so shut down for so long. I know you mentioned, but obviously you do bookkeeping. Do you provide any other services outside of that?
I also do taxes, primarily focused on self-employed or business people because there are more complicated taxes, and that relates along to what I do. And that's a service that I chose to add to my practice because many of my clients wanted the one-stop shopping of having a tax professional as well at the end of the year as the same person that handled their books all year long.
And what exactly does a bookkeeper do?
Most raw basic level, we take your bank transactions and we categorize them to whether are they assets, are they liabilities, are they expenses, or are they income? Those are the four places that we put them. We put your money inflow and outflow in the proper buckets so that at the end of the year, the tax professional can then take that information and compile it and then have all your profit and loss statements. And the other thing we do is monthly as we go, we do things like prepare profit and loss statements. We can manage accounts receivables for companies that have receivables. We can manage payables if you're a company with high inventory, and also payroll. So we do all of those things. And then on the higher level, we can also help with financial management, financial planning, and projections, all those things.
That's super interesting with bookkeeping because I kind of, obviously I know what keeping the books means, but not necessarily like all of those like little tiny little things. Now, why would somebody, like, what's the importance of really keeping your books? Because like obviously I have a small business, so I know what I spend, but you know, what would be like, why?
Well, there's a couple different reasons you want to keep track of your books. One is you should technically, most people don't, but technically be paying quarterly estimated taxes so that you don't get a minor penalty at the end of the year and you don't get a surprise with a big tax bill. That's one thing. And the other thing is it gives you clarity on where you stand, where are you spending your money, where are you making your money, and maybe it can give you some clarity as to what you can do better. Oh my goodness, I'm spending way too much on marketing. Let me look closer at my marketing, for instance, in your industry and say, which areas am I spending that provide me the biggest results so that I can focus on those and get rid of the areas and maybe have a higher profitability.
I definitely think that's super important because as a small business owner, it's really easy to be like, I have to do everything to get everything. And sometimes that's not always the best. I think I've sort of learned that. I think I kind of learned by example just because my parents, I come from like a small business family. And so I've gotten to see them like make those mistakes and do those things. And I'm like took note as a kid because I think I was always meant to be an entrepreneur. I was always going to do something like this at some point in my life. Wasn't planning on being a realtor though, but I kind of figured I would always be here. And so I used to take like little mental notes of like, this is what not to do. This is what you should do. Like, those things like that.
Yes.
And it's super important to have a good bookkeeper, because if you have a bad one, it definitely can go south.
And don't procrastinate. If you get to the point where you're stressing over it, you have no idea where your money is going, and all of a sudden things are happening and you're never getting to it, you probably have better things to do with your time than your books. And it's probably time to pry open the pocketbook and hire a professional, because a lot of people put that off because it's something that they can do themselves. And it's a back burner thing that until tax time, you really don't need. And so the other thing is, when you have that professional, all of a sudden it's not a fire at tax time. All these things are in place. This person is asking you questions all along to make sure that all those things that will be needed are where they need to be when they need to be. So
yeah, no, it could definitely be stressful when taxes come around, especially if you haven't been like keeping up with it. It can be a lot to deal with. For me, it's just me, so it's a little bit easier, but I can't imagine like having a small, like say like electrician company or a plumbing company where you have employees, and like if you don't have somebody like managing all of that, like I can't imagine like some people don't, like I know that's a real thing. People don't, and then they probably come to you frantic on like, how do we do everything? So if you don't have to give exact prices, because I'm sure you probably don't, but like how much would something like that, like how much do you charge, or most people charge anyway, if you want to give like an average?
in our area, most bookkeepers start at the $250 range, and they go up from there into the $1,000 plus range. Most of my clients are in the $500 to $750,000 range, because it depends on the services. Do you just need basic compliance work, which means you have less than 5 bank accounts and credit cards, and we go in once a week, we categorize, we take care of everything, we ask you questions if we need to? Or are we managing your accounts receivable, your payable? Are we filing sales tax for you, or doing payroll? So all those other services, there's additional fees for, and that's the kind of thing somebody has to look at your business to determine what those fees would be.
Of course, yeah, I'm sure it varies based on what you do and how you do it and all that stuff. Now, that 250 is like for a month, right?
Per month,
Monthly,
yes.
that's what I thought. No, I know you mentioned with your added tax services. So obviously you prepare all of the final documentation, right? Like all their bookkeeping. And when you say tax services, you're giving that out to somebody, correct, to do? Or are you doing it yourself?
I am doing the tax services myself. And since this is something that I am new at and have not done it for 30 years, I have taken several classes, actually, both in college and externally. I took a refresher class from an enrolled agent who is an MBA, who is also my mentor. We'll be reviewing all my taxes this year, because it's the first year that I'm doing them, so that I am 100% guaranteed that I am accurate, I am comfortable with my services. And then going forward, I'm going to become an enrolled agent, take the education, and get that added designation, because that additional knowledge will make me a better bookkeeper as well.
No, I'm sure, because in that way you can, make suggestions on things. And speaking of suggestions, I know, like, even for me, like, when you talk about, like, going in and, like, looking at everything and categorizing, like, it can almost be kind of stressful in a way, only because I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm going to have to, like, tell her this and deal with it. Just, like, seems like a lot to deal with. So what would you recommend maybe, like, a business owner, small business owner, do to help, like, make your job easier, and then also, like, for us to feel like we have less to direct you on? Like, maybe the way that they set up their bank accounts, credit cards, whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe a recommendation from your point of view.
The number one is keep your business and personal finances separate. Especially, this means you realtors. It's so difficult for realtors, generally people who hustle for a living or have multiple businesses, to keep everything separate. Rule number one, have a bank account for your business. If you have a credit card, either that you can get a credit card for the business, great. If not, if you have your own that you can dedicate, keep your business and personal finances separate. That's number one, because then you're confident when you're going through things that they're not separate owner's draw. And the other reason I say that is, God forbid you ever get audited. If your personal stuff is mixed in with your business stuff, it's very possible that audit will open up personal finances to the auditor that you did not want open to the auditor. So there are many reasons why you want to keep your personal and business finances as separate as possible. That's the biggest one, is the fear of the IRS. You don't want them knowing that you went to Bali on vacation. It's none of their business. That comes from your money. You don't want that run through the business. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, when you have any odd expenditures or large dollar amount expenditures, warn your accountant or send them the paperwork so that they know what it is, or they're just going to be reaching out to you and asking.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think definitely keeping everything organized is important. I know I don't do that very well either. It's just like a lot to deal with. So I think it's really not, but it just feels that way.
It is. And it's not so much that you don't have to be organized. Rule number one, keep it separate.
Yeah.
Because then you pay your bookkeeper to organize it. Just keep it separate. And then at the end of the year, even if you don't see your accountant or your bookkeeper until the end of the year, all you have to do is hand them those statements. And you're both confident that everything in them is business only.
Yeah, no, that definitely is super important. Like, I'm looking to get a bookkeeper this year, and like I'm getting busier, and like before I wasn't making that much money, and I wasn't that busy, so it was, I max made, I don't know, not very much, not more than 50 grand. So it just wasn't a lot of money because I'm new and starting out, and in the beginning you don't make tons of money. Like, that's just how it is when you open a small business. Those first couple of years can be kind of rough.
Yes.
People don't talk about that, but it is true. Like, people are like, I'm gonna do a small business, I'm gonna make tons of money my first year. Most people do not.
No, you're not.
You're not going to. You're going to struggle. It's going to be rough. Now things are getting better, and I know that it's important, because I've learned all of those things, to have it organized and to do it right. Because once you start making more money, the IRS loves to cause more issues and loves to be, our enemy number one when it comes to all of that, which is just like something else we have to worry about. And I'm like, good Lord, help us all. We're here.
Yes.
I'm like, spending all, give you all of my money. No, I'm joking. But it's what it feels like sometimes.
It does, though.
It does. And, obviously keeping it organized and stuff is super important. My parents talk about it all the time. They're like, that's how we are able to do what we do, and we get more money back, and things just go a lot smoother as long as, with having a bookkeeper and having those people do those things.
With what you do, there's a big ebb and flow with
Yes.
expenses versus income. And having that bookkeeper that can help you with the cash flow statements is a big thing in your industry. That'll help as well, ease some of the angst. And again, goes back to maximizing dollar per punch with your expenses, because then you can look back, see where you spent your money, and know where it generated you the most income.
Yes, that's just super important, because sometimes you think one thing's working, and when that's not, something else actually is. Now that we've talked all about taxes and bookkeeping and all that fun stuff, I know you told me that you even mentioned it a little bit ago, that you're not originally from Marion County. So how long have you been here?
I have been here 5 years. I moved
Okay.
January 2019, right before COVID.
Okay, so right before the craziness.
Yes.
You missed that COVID bubble that we had to deal with.
Oh, no, right before it, yes.
Yeah.
I got here just in time.
Yeah, no, because it was insanity. I started real estate during that era, and it was nuts.
Oh, that had to be crazy.
It was insane being a buyer's agent, because I was a buyer's agent for my mom, and it was nuts. A lot of people are like, well, I made so much money. And I'm like, well, I made money, don't get me wrong. But I would come home and I would just be like, I'm dead. Like, I'm gone. Because, we're looking at 10 houses, and all of them are sold within 5 minutes, and my buyer's getting priced out of the market, and they're, if you weren't cash or conventional, it was hard to get you a home. Like, I could do it, don't get me wrong, but it was just difficult. So we would go through so many homes.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, we'd have like 10 people. I literally remember one, I pulled up, somebody else pulled up, and somebody else pulled up, and the realtor came out saying, like, we already bought the house, we're done. And I'm like, okay, we're moving on to the next.
I bought 5 acres.
Okay.
Paid 40 grand for it.
Wow.
It had been for sale for at least a year and a half. It's probably tripled in value since then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the amount of equity that most people don't realize that they have, even if they bought when you bought, is like 100%. I mean, when we were at the height of the market, some people had 200% equity. That's insane.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, like, it was insane. So they like were tripling, quadrupling their money. Most literally, like some of the people bought these houses for like the home, land, everything for like 50 grand during the crash, and now that their house is worth like 300, 400,
Yeah.
500, 600 even. So I mean, that is, the return on that is insane. I don't care if you had to sink 100 grand into it, you're still making a lot of money.
Yes.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But sometimes people are like, I'm not getting all of my money out of it, and I'm like, what? Good Lord, you paid 50 grand for it. I wish I could have bought a house for 50
Yes.
grand. Even the house I live in wasn't 50 grand. So, I mean, most people, that doesn't exist very much anymore. And if it does, you don't want what's there.
No.
It's so terrible. You said you moved here 5 years ago. You live in Denellen. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
I do. I live in Denellen, so I'm near the coast and near all the springs and the manatees, which is really neat. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I have 5 acres, so I have a very rural neighborhood. I live on a dirt road, but yet I have 3 Walmarts within 15 minutes from me. Ocala is maybe 45 minutes from me, and I love Ocala and the community, and I love this county and this area because the area in general, you still have that small hometown atmosphere. People care about each other. People get out in their community and they do things, but we still have all the conveniences of big city stuff. So I really like it because I did spend 10 years down in Miami.
Oh gosh, okay.
Back in my 20s. And when my husband and I came back to Florida, because he was raised down there, we was like, not going to Miami. So we looked for somewhere that was rural and happy and comfortable. And this was where we picked. And we couldn't be happier. We love our community.
Yeah, no, Denellen is a pretty cool place. My mother-in-law and them live in Rolling Hills, so that's a little bit farther from where you are, but it's still in that same kind of area there. And, you know, Denellen's growing a lot. Like, it has a coffee shop now, which is like
huge.
It's crazy. It is. Denellen itself is big because most people, when they call me and they're like, I want to move to Denellen, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, just be aware, like, you might be in Citrus County, you might be in Marion, or you could even be in Levy, because I was like, it encompasses all of those. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, really. It's kind of like the county that got a little, like, cut up.
And those are my 3 counties that I service the most of is Citrus, Levy, and Marion County. And Citrus County is growing hugely right now.
It is. It has a lot of growth to do, because while it does have some things that we don't have, it is missing a lot of retail, I feel like. And it has for a long time. Because Lecanto now just got a Target.
We do. We got Target, and that's about 10 minutes from where I live. Target, Hobby Lobby. We got a Texas Roadhouse. Now we're really stepping up in the world.
And Panera, I think or Starbucks or something they put there too.
The only department store we have is Bell's, but I'll take it. It's better than none.
I know. Because there's just not, until you get to like Crystal River, there's just not really too much.
No, there's not.
There's not. I have people are like, I want to move to Citrus County. And I'm like, instead of over Marion, because they're like, there's just nothing in Marion. And I'm like, well, there's really nothing in Citrus.
No, there's plenty in Marion County. Marion County's awesome and busy and has all kinds of urban areas, suburban areas, and just about anything that you want, you could find.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. But that's like people's, like, they're, before they haven't come here, they're like, Citrus County. And I'm like, nothing wrong with Citrus County. I sell in Citrus County. I'll be honest, I don't really, personally, Citrus County is not my favorite. I just don't like it that much. I don't know why. I think it's the coast thing. I don't always like coastal counties, at least on the West Coast. It's just not my favorite. But it's a great place. Inverness is really cool, like downtown Inverness. I don't know. I'm sure you've been down there. It's nice, and it's always been kind of old Florida feel without, and it's still kind of that way, but it's definitely not like very city-esque at all.
No, not at all.
No, and I think people sometimes, I don't know why people would think it's more city. Maybe because of Crystal River, and they think, or like maybe because of the West Coast thing, people like assume that the West Coast of Florida is more
like Tampa. That's like when you leave Florida, everyone looks at Florida and they picture it, the entire Florida is either Disney World or Miami Beach. It's
literally, and I'm like, no, we have more than beaches and more than Disney by far. We do. Even Orlando's more than that, really, too. There's some really cool, interesting, like little places there.
There are.
There is. So it's just kind of funny. But now I know you said you live in Denellen, and you like live on the Denellen, like on the Marion Citrus line, right?
I do.
Which is kind of funny. I thought that when you told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's pretty. I think it's funny because my mother-in-law and them live, I believe, they live on the Ocala Denellen line. So there's like, even that is kind of weird. Yep. I'm like, everything in Marion County is so split up. But we are pretty big, though. Like, we're the 5th largest county.
Yeah, it's a huge county.
It is. It's pretty big. To get from one end to the other is like a lot. So what do you think about it so far? I know you seem to really like it here. Do you like it better than where you used to live, or?
Oh, gosh. I had 85 acres in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Love the big land. Hate the snow. I don't miss negative 10 degrees for 6 weeks. Not going to happen again. I do like that we have seasons. And I like that we actually don't have the beaches here because we don't have that massive crowd of people. So, and the people are happy and they're friendly and they're helpful. So I'm very happy. I do like the area. I like the community. I like the people. This is my home.
I think Marion County is a really great option. I feel like, not Denellen, but specifically Marion, is like becoming like this large suburb, like suburbia, quote unquote, in between Gainesville, Tampa, and Orlando. Like even in Citrus kind of gets folded into that too. I think at some point this like little middle section here is all just going to be like typical suburbia. That's what I envision. Never like big city, because I think Orlando, Tampa, and I think at some point Gainesville too will kind of overtake all of the city that we will need.
Yes.
I mean, how much city do we really, even up north, I know a lot of it's like more suburb-y-ish around the bigger cities. And so I'm very intrigued anyway long term to see where Marion County and Denellen.
Yes.
Denellen, I feel like will stay pretty country. It will always be like the small area that's country, because most of the lots there are pretty big. Like I know you said in your neighborhood, it's what,
2.5 to 10 acres, and it's actually deeded. So they won't, unless when the state wants to put a highway through. Aside from that, they will stay that big.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure at some point that probably will happen.
Well, they are putting one of them through.
I mean, they have to, unfortunately. I know it's not really ideal, but at least all around there, it will pretty much stay. I mean, it's just a road. The road's not ideal, don't get me wrong. But it'll kind of be like in Sanford over there when they put the new highway through. All those people got to keep their farms, and it's still that way there.
And they do try to take things in. They make it in such a way where there are barriers now, where you have tree barriers and hill barriers to kind of keep the sound and the noise and stuff. So the state does do things to make it not so horrible.
I know people really complain that they're like out to get the farmer, but unfortunately we have to have these roadways. People complain about how congested 75 gets and 95 and I-10, and I mean we only have like 4 or 5 major roads that take us back and forth through the whole entire state. Like I've been to other states, most of them have more roads than that. Especially like in the bigger cities, like in New York and Pennsylvania and all that. Like, there's a lot of road systems.
There are
going
way more than we have here.
Oh, way more. We're really behind, honestly.
Yes, that's why when we have hurricanes, they close the highway in the one direction and have the whole thing going out because there's just not capacity.
Yeah, there's just not enough room. What road system's coming through there? Is that the one that's going from Jacksonville over, or is that the one that's going...
Well, right now the Turnpike is coming through, and then I think they're hoping to extend it all the way to 19.
Yes, that's the goal. And then that'll take you to Jacksonville. Because they're bringing it in Jacksonville now. They're playing hell as usual. I really feel like the St. John's has truly, you can say I'm crazy, has some type of energy, something up with it. Because anytime they've ever tried to put anything across it or do any kind of work with the St. John's, it's always a disaster. It takes them twice as long and it's super difficult. And they're really struggling actually in Jacksonville to get that bridge across it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they found another Indian burial ground because there's a lot of them through the St. John's. And so like I-4 technically, the section that is in between Volusia County and like when you're going to Sanford, there's a portion there. I grew up in Volusia County. That actually, there was Indian burial grounds there that they had to do it was a whole disaster. They had to do this whole dig up and everything before they could put the road in. And so like that's supposedly the most dangerous section of I-4, which it is. A lot of people crash there and they say that it's like the ghosts or the energy or whatever. But I do feel like that body of water, for whatever reason, is very difficult to deal with. I mean, I feel like the ocean in some ways is easier to deal with than that. I don't know why, but it is. But I know that's a big hang up in Jacksonville. They have everything else done, but they just can't get it.
Water is unstoppable.
I know. It's an intense one. So, and that's what's going to connect there too. So that's kind of the goal. Is to bring it up, I think, from Tampa, right? And then and then it'll go up and over. I know, it's going to be interesting. We're not really going to see too much of it. It's mostly Citrus County that's getting impacted, unfortunately, which I know a lot of people are really mad about.
Worst case scenario, if they want to come across my land, they'll just pay me oodles of money and I'll go build something somewhere else.
That's kind of how I feel about it, too. You know what? I think I'd rather than be building road systems than be building homes.
I'm with you there. And, granted, I grew up in New Jersey, so technically I am a transplant. I did spend 10 years here, but so many people come to Florida and then they try to make Florida like where they came from.
Yeah.
And
no, it's true.
I came here to be a Floridian.
To just enjoy what we have to, and I do. Most of the people that I meet are that way. There's some that aren't, but I would rather us be doing, like, they're building a Publix now for 484, and they're like building other things that we actually like need, like not another car wash or not another fast food restaurant. Like, these are things that we need because there's not enough of them. Road systems. I would much rather see my tax dollars go towards that than whatever these developers are taking to do whatever they're doing.
Yes.
Like, I hate to be that way, But it's just, and I'm a realtor, so I shouldn't be that way. But I am, because it's just, we need these infrastructure things. Like, we do desperately need them here in Florida.
You can't have the people if you don't have the infrastructure to support them. Then that's just a recipe for disaster.
Which is kind of where we are, but I think it just happened so fast.
It did.
And now it's slowing down, thank God. It's like, I mean, people are still moving here, but it's just not as quickly and as crazy as it was before.
That's good, though.
It is good. It's
we
more
need it
steady.
to slow down, yes.
I know, because like I don't remember, the COVID, it was nuts. That was like some crazy numbers. So at the very end of my podcast, what I always ask is, what would you tell somebody if they're looking to do what you do?
Well, obviously you need to love numbers and enjoy burying your face in the book. And a lot of bookkeepers are introverted people. If you want to own your own bookkeeping business or accounting firm, you need to be an extroverted introvert and enjoy people, because the value in what we do is done through the relationship building part of it and getting to know people and their businesses and their goals and providing them the clarity that they need. So if you want to be a bookkeeper, if you're an introvert and you love numbers, great. If you want to be a business owner, you need to like people too.
No, I think that's 100% true, and that even goes for you. So, like, if you want to share maybe, like, how we met through social media. I think
We did,
yeah. You reached out to me and were like, I know you said you've been, like, talking to other people through there and stuff, and have you, like, found any success with that? Like, you know, talking to people online?
I have actually, just reaching out to people and letting them know what I do and that I'm here. I've gotten a few clients and a few potential clients in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's super cool. I know I've thought about doing that myself too. I was just like, one more. It's like I feel like you always are having to do like something, adding, keep doing. It never ends.
Yes.
It can feel a little overwhelming.
It is, especially when you're the one who's wearing all the hats.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to be kind of good at everything, a jack of all trades when you start your own business. Well, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for all of the really great information that you provided. If you guys have any questions or would like to get in contact with Joy, her information will be on there. And is there anything else that you want to share, like what maybe something big come in 2020 this year, or maybe something that you're doing, specials? I don't know. I always give that.
No, I'm just very happy to have the opportunity to come here and speak with you and show the world that I'm here and what I do. And hopefully I will be building my business over time and stepping out in the community more and doing things, because my priority this year is to start giving back.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and check back next week for another great one.